Hey everybody, I wanted to show you one of my more favorite demos when we get into waves and sound. It really does show how simple sound is when you really think about what makes sound. So we're going to check it out first and then we'll talk a little bit about how it actually works. We got the iPad with Pandora, just a regular old headphone cable spliced at the end, a coil of wire, and a stack of magnets, and a cup. Nothing inside the cup, no trickery. But when you put the magnet near the coil, which has the signal from the music coming through it, charging the coil and making it a magnet here, you get a speaker. No music? Music. So hopefully that was somewhat mind-blowing. I mean, I remember the first time I saw it, I thought that was amazing that we made sound from just a few items. So let's talk about how that works. So, we had a few items. We had, in the first video, the very basic speaker, we had a stack of magnets. We had a little piece of paper that was, wrapped in a cylinder. And then around that, we had what's called magnet wire. And it's a type of wire that has a very, very fine, thin insulation around it, so it almost doesn't look like it's insulated, but it is. But the insulation is very, very thin to allow for very tight windings, and so magnet wire is used to basically make electromagnets, which is a big part of how speakers work. So there is a concept that you aren't quite familiar with, and that is that if you run an electrical current through a wire, you actually generate a magnetic field. And if you add more and more turns of that wire, you're going to get a bigger and bigger electromagnet. So let me show you a quick diagram, and that might help a little bit. So my diagram here includes the stack of permanent magnets. It includes my electromagnet here. And again, you don't need to understand how, but know that when you run a current through a wire, it generates a magnetic field. And if you run a continuous length of this wire in a whole bunch of turns like this, creating a cylinder of this wire, coming in one side, coming out the other, you're generating a bigger and bigger magnetic field. This is an electromagnet, and electromagnets are a big part of how speakers work. So when current is running from your sound source, in one way and out the other, that's going to create an electromagnet with poles. And so just like any other magnet, this has a north pole and a south pole. And we know from playing with magnets that, opposites attract, likes repel. So in this case, we have opposites, they would attract. This would want to pull towards the stack of magnets. Well, the electrical signal from the sound source doesn't always stay traveling in the same direction. It's actually flipping back and forth a lot, and the frequency that it flips back and forth is going to change the poles of this electromagnet at different rates. And depending on the rate at which it flips the poles of this electromagnet, that's going to cause this to attract and repel rapidly at that frequency, so you're getting this back and forth oscillation. Well, we know from studying waves that when you have oscillations from a source, those are generating waves, in this case a sound wave, and that those vibrations are then vibrating the air, vibrating the table, and at a certain frequency, and you're going to hear those in the form of sound. So as that signal is flipping back and forth through the wire, flipping the poles of this magnet here, again, you are getting this back and forth motion of the cylinder, causing vibrations through the other magnets, through the table, through the air, and you're hearing that in the form of sound. So depending on what frequency you're trying to generate, those poles are going to flip at that frequency. So if you want a lower note to play, the poles are going to flip at a lower frequency. They're not going to flip as fast. If you want a higher frequency to play, they're going to flip a lot faster, and so you're going to get a much faster oscillation of that electromagnet with the magnets, the permanent magnets sitting on the table. Hopefully that helped, and hopefully it was interesting. If you want to know anything else about that, or if you want to know more about it, please let me know. And thanks for watching.